My name is Joe Compton. I am an independent author and filmmaker and the executive producer here at Go Indie Now. I may know a lot of things, but that's because I never stop learning. I figured I wasn't alone in that. So I asked my friends and colleagues if they wouldn't mind giving us an hour of their time to each teach us something new. So, welcome to Indie Teachables 101, brought to you by the Speculative Fiction Academy.
Do you like fantasy, podcasting, and screenwriting? Want to learn how to write them? The Speculative Fiction Academy is perfect for you. With 5 curriculum tracks and 3 ways to learn, you'll go beyond the fundamentals to hone your craft. Take the classes you want to take. Visit SpeculativeFictionAcademy.com to learn more.
We're going to be doing something pretty special over the next 2 weeks. We're going to be welcoming my friend Leah Marks to join us. Leah is a project manager that specializes in online presence. And this week, we're going to be delving into that small little section of interspace that you have bookmarked onto the interwebs called our website. So much to tackle when it comes to websites. Like, what are the best builders? What is the best coding to use? Why are websites important? And all of the other questions that you might have. So let's sit down and welcome to teach us websites, the one and only Leah Marks. Yay! Hello, everybody. We are live, and welcome to the show. And yes, here she is. And we have a lot to go over, so I'm not going to waste any time with chit chat. We're just going to go right into it. So, Leah, it's all yours. Let's get to it. Let's have some fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. This is a topic that you could easily spend probably a good 3 months of sessions on. So we're gonna touch the surface of websites. We're gonna talk about some basics. That doesn't mean those who don't have websites yet won't be able to take some value out of it, because it'll give you some tools to evaluate maybe how you're approaching your website. And for those who are just thinking about starting their website, it's going to get you off on the right foot. I've been doing this for 25 years and have been in internet marketing and website design for about 15 years specifically. So a strong website focus for small businesses. And I'm so happy to be here. So thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited and passionate about this topic.
My pleasure. I can't believe it. Yeah, it's awesome. I'm excited too.
All right.
I already know I'm going to learn some stuff. So
I hope so. So in the intro, you mentioned one of the most important questions that this presentation isn't going to answer, but kind of the implied answer is, why is a website so important? And I'll just give a very simple but blunt answer. It is the point of everything that you do online. And that's that's a very broad statement, but let me clarify. Your website should be the central hub for all of your internet marketing actions and all of your professional presence. It is the place where you're trying to get people to, because this is where you talk about yourself. I like to describe it as, and I give this analogy or this metaphor, and my husband hates it. He hates it with a passion, but I love it. Everything that you do online is essentially the directions, right? It's the address. It's what you're trying to do. The website is your home, right? Are you a hoarder? Are you a minimalist? Who are you? You can walk into somebody's home and kind of get a sense of who they are, right? Also, what they use their home for is also going to be very, very important. If they use it as a business place, if it's mostly personal. So website, I love that metaphor because it's so fitting in so many ways. But if you're going online, if you're going into social media and building a presence for yourself and you don't have a website, you're going to have a really hard time seeing returns, building a sustainable brand, and kind of generating a committed and dedicated audience for your online activity. So that is why a website is so important. So I love that question. I could probably come up with 8 different analogies on why it's important, but that's really the most basic way.
I like the home, and I like it actually. I think it's that's right. That makes sense to me, because you're gonna go exploring. You want to kind of have an idea of what you're gonna get into.
Right. So that is also a fantastic foundation for all of the things that we're going to be talking about next.
Nice.
So that's the why, and we're going to get into the what and the how certainly, but I don't know if you've heard, whys are kind of important. I know that there have been tons of videos out there about people talking about why, so I won't go into it, but the why is very, very important. So
Nice.
Let's kind of dive in. When I start talking about websites, let's take a broad look about on what a website needs. Every single website, no matter what industry, no matter what objective, no matter what purpose, no matter what functionality, every website needs 3 components. The first one is design. The design should enhance the audience experience, right? The audience experience should be enhanced by design, right? The next thing on this list, you'll see, usability. That enhances the audience experience. I hope you're getting a sense of the theme here. And then the last one is content. That enhances the audience experience. And the reason why that is the last phrase of any one of those points is because the audience experience is the point. You don't have a design just to have a design. You don't have a design just because it's cool, unless you're an artist, unless you're actually promoting art, right? Usability, content, those are the things that are going to color the experience of any user and will either send them away for good or keep them coming back, right? It's going to give them their first look at who you are. So these things are important, and we're going to break this down. I'm going to go through one of these points, and we're going to talk about this a little bit, and hopefully we can dive in deep onto how you can approach each of these different focuses in your website. So first, let's go to the most important, which is not the first item on this list. Design is always the most popular item on this list, but is actually the least important. And that's really sad. Nobody likes to hear that because design is the fun part, right? Design is the thing.
I'm all for the content because design for me is tedious. I think it's very tedious. It's a lot of coding. It's a lot of putting things where, and then trying to line things up. Not for me. I'm all about getting the information in there. That's what I like.
I can't tell you how many times, and I've built, I would say easily about 200 or 300 websites in my life. And I can't tell you how many times people have gotten stuck on design elements, colors, fonts, images. It's fun. It is to think about if you're going to have coral or peach, as your color scheme. And that's certainly, it's certainly popular, and it's certainly fun to think about, but it is not going to make or break your site. If the other elements don't come into play, right? So the most important thing that all of these things need to do is to offer something that's called what we call a frictionless experience, is what we call it in the business. And what this means is ensuring that the visitors to your website have a seamless journey from the time that they come onto your site to the time that they purchase your product, right? Whether it's a art or whether that's a book, or whether that's subscribing to a newsletter, whatever the objective of your website is, they need to have a seamless journey. So if you see people drop off before they get to the end of where you want them to be, somewhere along the line they got tripped up by something, right? So frictionless experience is a common phrase among marketers that just talks about the journey as a whole, because that's the point. So we're going to start with content because it is the most important. And it's so important, I wrote it in big letters. So here are the most common issues that cause visitors to flee a website. And when I say flee, I do mean flee. I use the word deliberately. And this is in order of the most common to the least common. So irrelevant content. And when I say irrelevant content, I'm not talking about content that has nothing to do with what you do, right? Mm-hmm. It's content that has nothing to do with the experience or the objective that they have or that you have for them. So an example is if you are trying to get people to buy books on your website, and all you can talk about is, or send them to, every click sends them away from the purchasing page, mm-hmm. or that's a problem. Mm-hmm. Like that's them having to fight you to get to where you want them to be, and that's no good. So irrelevant content is often misunderstood, but it's really, really important. Too much content is another big one. I'm going to stick with the house comparison for websites. There's a lot of hoarders out there, like people who want everything on their website. Yeah.
I am. I have to say I am. I'm not a hoarder in life, but yeah, right. I want to get it all on there. That was always my aim. And yeah, mm-hmm. you quickly realize that it doesn't all fit.
Right. And one of the things that I've discovered in my time in marketing and website project management and program management is that you can very, very easily determine whether a website was built with the builder in mind versus the audience in mind. A lot of author websites specifically that I see are built with the author in mind. It's what the author wants to share. It's not necessarily what the user or the visitor or the purchaser needs to get to the objective. It's just, here, let me share everything with you. I'm super proud of it and I want to share all of my love. And while that's a beautiful feeling to have and certainly noble, it is also detrimental to your objective for your website, right? So too much content also falls in line with unorganized and chaotic. They're not the same. You could have too much content that is very, very organized. The problem, and let me just kind of go over like what the difference is. Let me try and think of something. So beautiful website, simple in design, easy to navigate, but the too much content component will come in like you go into a menu, which takes you to another sub menu, which takes you to something else, right? Like all of the pages are beautiful. They're designed.
You have to click 100 times to get to the thing you want.
It's too, or every click takes them away from what they want. So that's the difference between too much content and unorganized and chaotic content. Unorganized and chaotic content is really, really easy to notice because it's when you go into the nav bar and you see 12 different nav bar items or menu items, and each of those has a sub menu item that's at least 10 items long. That's insane. That's absolutely insane in this day and age, especially when you consider that 75% of your content is going to come from a mobile device. Mm-hmm. That's a horrible user experience to offer somebody. So
I do have a question in regards to that, in regards to clicking off of the website. Mm-hmm. Do you recommend that people do the link that goes to that page, but never takes you off of your page? Or do you recommend them just a direct link and then you would have to double back to the page if you wanted to go back to the
Right. Yeah, that's a great question. Always open up in a new tab. Never open up in a new window, but always up in a new tab.
Nice.
New window.
Doing something right. I'm happy.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's a danger in that too, right?
Absolutely. It's a double-edged sword for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. There's an issue in that too, in that you feel safe because they're still on your website.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to get somebody to the kitchen and you keep opening doors to the bedroom,
yeah,
so you're trying to redirect them. You're trying to guide their experience to get them to the page, the objective page, or the shop page,
right,
or the blog, or the newsletter, whatever it may be, whatever your objective is. You're trying to get them there as quickly as possible. Right. And specific with a mobile experience, people are far less patient than they are on desktop. So and considering that 70% of your content almost will always be mobile, I mean, that's a pretty steady statistic.
Yeah.
It's just, it's too important to ignore.
Yeah.
So no clear message or purpose. It really does fall in line with having, unorganized or chaotic or too much content. They all kind of stem from that issue that I talked about, where this website's about what I want to share and not what I think what you need to experience in order to purchase my book. So that
Rosie would love you to explain new tab versus new window if you got a second.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're creating a hyperlink, which is basically, if you don't know what a hyperlink is, it's a link of a word or a phrase that's linked to another section of content, either another website, another web page, or another section of that page. So that's what a hyperlink is. You have options to either open to create an action with that hyperlink that will either open up that link in a new tab, which is in the same window that you currently have. I don't know if you can, I wish I could share my whole screen. But when you look at the top of your browser, you'll see multiple tabs at the top. All right. So you can have, your Gmail and your website in the same window. But opening up a new window basically takes them away from the window that you're in that houses your website. And I don't know if I'm wording that very, very well. And I can show people, I can show you at the end, once we get out of this, presentation, I'll come back to that so I can actually demonstrate that for you, because it's easier.
I was actually going to show mine, but
go ahead.
Well, you have this up, so let's pull this down real quick, and then I can do that. Then I can show, because I have extra tabs up on my screen, and it makes sense if you look at it. So, all right, let's see there. No, maybe it's not going to let me share. Oh, there you go. So then, oh, nope, I don't want that one. That's weird. Okay, sorry. Share screen. Go to entire screen. There you go. Let's do that. So, well, let's keep doing it, but there's the tabs at the top.
You've got it at the top. So you're seeing your screen. Go to another tab at the very, very top of your screen. Yeah, so that is a new tab. So he just clicked from the screen sharing tab or the StreamYard tab to a new tab. That is opening up a new tab. So you can still see it's in the same window. It's really, really easy to navigate back, especially if you click out of that or if you X out of that tab. If you go to a new window, it just gets them it's just one step further away. So, Rosie, if you have links to pages on websites that aren't yours, then it's still a good idea to do a new tab rather than new window, again, because it's just one less step further away from your site.
Yeah, I'm guessing like the WordPress logo and stuff like that has the little hyperlink to their copyright page or whatever and things like that. But yeah.
So the last two items are technical issues and speed issues, which may or may not be content related. An instance where it is content related is if you have a very large image and it's a huge file It's not compressed. It's not condensed at all. And so it results in really slow load times. In fact, images are often the largest causes of load time issues. So you really only need it for the size that you want it to show. So you do not, if you're trying to show something to the right side of your screen on your website, you do not need it to be 2000 pixels by 2000 pixels. That's just insane. That's unnecessary drag on the load time. So those.
But it looks so pretty, so big.
I know they do, but unless everybody is looking at their at your website from a 72-inch television, it's unnecessary. And load times are the things that drive people away fastest outside of content. So, all right. So let's talk about your content. All right. The first thing that you want to do, either when you're reevaluating the content that you have or considering building a new site, these are really the only pages that you absolutely need. And I know that's hard because there are probably people on this that have 30, 40 pages. And in fact, I would even say that the blog is not necessary. I think it's helpful, specifically when you've got an audience who's looking for updates on your works. I think it's absolutely 100% helpful, but you can also include that on the homepage. If you don't want to have an actual blog, you can have an update page or an update section. But you don't need a lot. And in fact, it's better to perfect these few pages than it is to have a bunch of other pages. So if you're considering even looking at your site again, focus on these pages. These pages are going to get the most action. These pages are going to be accessible to the most amount of people and will, I would say, influence your user experience more than any other page. So go through, identify the pages of your site, make a list of them, prioritize them again with these 6 as the most important. And then we're going to start taking a look at them in depth. So for each one of these pages, oh, and by the way, sorry, this is a little side note. A website doesn't have to include everything. I know we've talked about this ad nauseum so far, but I went on to Jemison's site and I was astounded in a good way. Like, I think I fell in love with her a little bit. I would ask her to marry me because this is the site. This is her homepage. It is that simple. It is a white page with her name and 3 buttons. And the 3 buttons have all very, very different objectives. About is more information. Books is sales. Blog is brand. Like, very, very, very simple. So this is a beautiful, simple, elegant website. And I encourage people to go check it out. It might not be your style, but it's certainly valuable to take a look at other kinds of websites to get an idea of what's out there and what's working.
So again, so I want to bring up the idea that, so for me, when I go on a website for a lot of my panelists and things like that, the thing I'm most looking for is their social media content, where their pages are, and and so that I can put those links into the description box that I create for our shows. And so I would venture to guess it's in the about page on this website, but I don't know that for a fact. But where do you recommend it being? Do you want it to be on the front end, or do you want to put it inside one of these boxes?
So if you're going to have, and if you look into her site at all, you'll see it on any interior pages. It's going to show up in the header. Mm-hmm. So you just have to click on any one of these, and it's going to have that bar at the top that's called the nav bar with the menu on it. Mm-hmm. And on the right-hand side at the top, it's going to have the social media icon. So it's still going to be very, very easy to find. Awesome. But the recommended spot is either the top right or the bottom. In your footer, it doesn't really matter if it's on the right, center, or left. But if you're going to have it in your header, the most common and easy spot is on the right-hand side to the right of your menu. So, yeah. So if you're going to have social media, then it's certainly a viable option. And she does make hers accessible, but this homepage is just stellar. It's just so cool. Yeah. So yeah, if you want to have that, go ahead and take a look at that site. So back to those pages. You've made a list of your pages, and here are the questions that you want to ask for each one of your pages. Who is my audience? And keep in mind, it's going to be different depending on where people are coming from. So, and by that, what I mean is if you are posting your blogs a lot on your Facebook page, right? Your audience is going to be your Facebook audience too. That might not be the case for people who come to your homepage, because they might be coming to your homepage from a marketing piece or an ad, or even just a search of your name, right? So who is your audience and where are they coming from is important, right? Again, your website is about their journey, not about yours. So what do you want them to do? So this could be, we're talking about objectives here. So this could be, I want my site to promote my brand. I really want to build a fantastic brand. I want my name to be recognizable. I want people to know that I write about, vampires or dinosaurs or, space octopuses. That makes me happy. But this is my brand. I am a sci-fi writer, or a space odyssey, and my brand is going to reflect that.
Yeah, Jemison did it with one quote at the very top. I mean, it's like you have no qualms about knowing who,
Right.
Jemison, right from there. Yeah, science fiction, fantasy writer for generation. I mean, that says it all right there.
Right. Also, does the fact that it comes from the New York Times, that she's published, and
some of us regard that, some of us don't.
That's true. That's I feel you on that comment. So.
That's another conversation for another time.
Yeah, true. Okay, so what do you want them to do? What's the objective? Are you trying to generate leads? Are you trying to get people to sign up for your newsletter? Are you trying to get people to go to your shop to buy your books? What are you trying to get people to do? All right. And it doesn't matter. Your page, your site can have multiple objectives. Each page should only have one. You can't have a single page with a sign up for my newsletter and buy my book objective. One has to take priority. And the reason why one has to take priority is because if you have to make a decision of one or the other, you need that answer to be set, right? If you are going through your pages and you're like, this is just too much, I need to simplify this. You need to set one objective per person that will actually increase your lead conversion by a lot.
Nice.
So once you've got your what you want, once you have your objective determined by you, then you need to take a look at the site with that in mind. What else can they do on this page besides what I want them to do? So if you want them, and this is kind of that newsletter thing, if you want them to go to your shop, if you want them to start purchasing books, anything that directs them away from that objective needs to be cut. Not necessarily cut from your website. It's entirely possible that that content has value somewhere else and just needs to be relocated. But what you really are trying to control and create a seamless customer journey, right? How hard is it to do the thing that I want them to do? If in order to sign up for your newsletter, they have to fill out their entire medical history. All right, that's an extreme example, but it fits, right? How hard is it? You want to make it as simple to do. You want to take a 7-step process and make it 5. You want to take a 5-step process and make it 3, right? So those are really important things to think about. Is how hard is it? How hard is it for me to do? If you are struggling with your own website, if I, as a marketer who's been on hundreds and hundreds of sites, am struggling with your website, chances are the everyday user is going to just have a horrible experience. They're going to struggle a lot. So you want to make it as simple as possible. And then the last question is, does the content on this page fall in line with my brand and my objectives for my audience? So do I sound like the same person on every page, right? You don't want to sound schizophrenic. You don't want to sound like you're 18 different people all contributing to the same website. You want to have a single voice, a single brand, a single look, and an objective. So you really do want to make sure that you kind of keep the bigger picture in mind as well. And that's a fun thing to go through if you've got 25 pages, which is why I say prioritize. Because this again is going to inform what you do with each of those pages, right? You're going through all of these questions and you're going to decide, okay, How well is this website doing? Am I getting the leads that I want to get? Are people buying my books? Are they being redirected to my Amazon page from my website? Is this what I want them to do? Is this the best user experience that I can provide? So those are the 6 questions, 6 big ones. You walk away feeling you got your face slapped, but it'll be good for you. The next 3 things are step 3. I'm sorry. Step 3, which has 3 items, is to take action. What content should be deleted or moved? How can you enhance your brand message? Again, if you're promoting yourself with a very specific type of feel, type of voice, you really do want that to be consistent throughout your entire website. And if we have time, we can go through some websites that I found from authors who've done just a fantastic job at that. Their websites match their books and the feel of their books perfectly. It's just a beautiful thing when it happens really well. And then how can I strengthen my call to action? And so that is more than just removing any distractions. That's saying, am I wording this call to action the best way I possibly can? Maybe buy my book isn't the best verbiage to use for your call to action. Maybe it should be start the journey, or maybe it should be something else. And just so you know, nobody knows for sure on the first try, not even somebody who's been doing this for 25 years, what will work, right? You try one thing, you take a look at the data. Hopefully you all have analytics, which would be a separate call, Joe. Like I could talk for an hour just on how to look at the data on your website and make determinations from that.
Well, we're going to tackle SEO next week, so we can dabble a little bit there.
We can dabble a little bit. You take a look at how people are responding to it, and then you make an adjustment and see if that improves it or if the conversion is less, right? It's just playing around and seeing what works. So those are the 3 things that you can do on your website. So that's the basic 101 level step on content. The next we're going to dive into is usability. And this is going to be a bit of a lecture, which I hate to do because I'm not the person who should be doing that. But it's really important when you're looking at your content and you're looking at your design, because it does kind of reach into both areas, that you are thinking with usability in mind. Remember, this is all about the customer journey. So you have to think about where those customers are at physically, socially, economically. So it's a really important thing to kind of take a look at that when it comes to your website. The first thing we're going to do is talk about accessibility. Now, this has been a huge discussion in the website world for a long time, but it's kind of always taken out of context. It mostly is talking about people who have permanent disabilities. But there are actual lifestyle or situational instances where this actually can help you out. So, for example, I'll do the dexterity one. So users with motor issues, so it's for people who have maybe partial paralysis and who can maybe have, or even extreme arthritis, people who can't maneuver with their arms and their fingers very well. But it can also include a new mom who's got a baby on her hip, right? It's a situational thing, not always a permanent impairment. Cognitive is people with ADD, dyslexia, autism. It can affect that affects how people absorb information. So you really want to try and minimalize how chaotic your content is. And not just your content, but your functionality. If you've got a single shot of your website, and on that single shot, without even scrolling up or down, you see 4 different calls to action, even if they're all doing the same thing, you might want to simplify that, because any complexity, any chaos will actually create a negative experience for people with cognitive, people who are in a cognitive condition, right? Hearing. This is people who have a lot of videos on their website, which is a really strong content to have on your website. Not so much for author websites. unless you have a lot of interviews, or if you've got a recorded panel from a con that you've been on and you're promoting that on your website. It is really easy to add closed caption on those videos now in this day and age. It's sometimes just a click of a button. So, but that can also be helpful for people who are looking at your website in a noisy area. So accessibility is more than just about a permanent impairment. So it's going to help your user experience no matter what, if you think about that. Privacy. Privacy is also another kind of trigger. And all it means right now is clarity, right? It's not about not collecting people's information. That's not what privacy means. It just means you give them the information so that they know what you're going to do with that information. And then you give them the option to not give you their personal information. If buying a book requires them to enter their email address and phone number and address, or state that they're from, it's perhaps not a great experience, and you're going to lose some people along the way if you force that. And it's good information, certainly. So if you want to make it optional, you absolutely can. It's great to know, especially for people who do a lot of conferences, to know where their user base is, like where the people that are buying the books, where they're located from. You definitely want to get that information. You just don't want to require it. So helping people understand what's going to happen with their data and give them the control whether or not to give their information to you is what privacy means today. Diversity. So this one's tricky because there's a lot of emotions involved in this, but it's still important to think about. I'm not a person who can lecture on this at all, but what I do want to say is really be aware of cultural stereotypes. Mom with the kids, like, I mean, if you can have a picture with a dad with the kids, that's just 10 times better. That's defying the stereotypes that have existed. And I'm always a fan when I see people do that. Additionally, here's a study that was done by Google.
Oh, interesting.
So people are more likely to
I love Google studies, by the way.
Yeah, people are more likely to consider purchasing your products or products from any website if they've seen content that they consider to be diverse or inclusive, even if it doesn't relate to them. So 64%, if they see or if they see a website that they consider diverse, they will be more likely to purchase from that website. 71% of LGBTQ consumers are more likely to interact with websites if they see people that are like them on your website. So if you've got the ability to, even if it's not, what your book is about, if you want to blog, even just talking about it, being aware of it, making sure that your video or image content doesn't promote harmful stereotypes, it's just a good thing to take a look at.
I read an article about that, 50% of the websites that they had a League of Women go through 50% of the websites, and they marked them all as like 50% of them were misogynistic in nature. So they didn't speak to them. They didn't have any content that a woman would appreciate at all. So even in diversity, that's something you have to really think about too. Are you reaching a broader audience, right?
Right. Especially with readers, we're really, because I'm a reader, obviously, we're really looking for ourselves in our books that we read. We want to see ourselves in that, and
at least relatable things to it. Right? So,
yeah,
that makes total sense.
Absolutely. All right, so off my soapbox a little bit, but also really, really important. I can't tell you how that's going to help you project a professional presence online just by having your site take those things into consideration. The next thing is design. This is the fun part for most people. Design. I've said this too many times today. Design should always support user experience. Design should not be added for design's sake. If you are trying to add a design component to a website and you have no idea why or how it's going to help your user experience, dump it. dump it.
Mhm.
Everything is as small as like font and color. If the fonts that you're choosing and the colors that you're choosing aren't supporting your brand, because those do have an effect on your brand, then they should not be used on your website.
I have a question on the
Go ahead.
color aspect.
Okay.
When you look at colors, should you be looking at a broader color because phones now, because you mentioned 70% of us use our phones when we're visiting websites,
Mhm.
they don't project the color like like a PC would or a Mac would. I mean, even PC and Mac are going to be a little different. So, I mean, everybody gets hung up on chartreuse and doing a light gray or a baby blue and
Right.
should it be more of the 7 rainbow colors that are universal to everybody? I mean, I think that about fonts as well, because
Yeah.
a lot of these web builders have these crazy fonts, and you think that's the coolest thing ever, and then you look at it on your phone, and it's in Arial because that's what they default to because they don't know that font, right? So.
Yeah, that's a great comment. That's something that's great to discuss. First of all, if you want to use crazy fonts, stick with Google Fonts. Just stick with Google Fonts. It doesn't have as wide of a spectrum, but you will be able to find a font that's similar or even cooler than the one that you're using by using Google Fonts. And then if you use a Google font, then there's nowhere on the website that you can't find the Google font. Like even on Gmail, Gmail will reflect Google Fonts. Obviously, Gmail, Google, but website, or I'm sorry, email in general will.
Yeah.
With colors, I would say the most harmful thing is too much color or chaotic color. Certainly you've got the ability to expand past the primary colors. I would say primary colors, not so much.
Okay.
Because you've got so many amazing shades
Yeah.
these
Gotcha.
colors now that you have access to. You can really play around with like taking a yellow and making it kind of a pale yellow or a bright gold yellow and having it look great. But the thing to think about is you want to pair bright, vibrant colors with a lot of white space because
Mhm.
you need a balance between that crazy eye-grabbing element, whether it's color or font or an image, with something that's simple so that your brain doesn't go crazy, because your brain does go crazy when you look at a website that's got nothing but images. It's really hard to find the content that matters. It actually does slow down the user experience, and the slower the user experience, the more complicated it is. The more complicated it is, it's harder to get to the end, right? Trying to
Right.
keep things simple. So
Gotcha.
you do want to find a good balance.
Nice.
I've seen websites that actually have bright colors all the way through. And I'll show you an example a little bit further in that walks through, or I guess I can show an example. Let me see if I can do this next. Yeah, here's one. All right.
Okay.
So new trend is artistic imagery, right? So
Mhm.
this is not an author website. This is just an example of a website, I think the real estate one. But you
I'm
can
gonna
see,
guess it's in Seattle.
yeah, right? You know, this is a fake, this is not a real website. This is a
Yeah.
fake example of a website. So you can see like a real estate logo that's completely bogus. But um in that center, even though there's color behind it, it is essentially white space.
Mhm.
It is not complicated. It is textured at the most, right?
Mhm.
White space does not indicate that it's literally white, although people do kind of lean towards that a lot.
Mhm.
A white space just means an area of space where your brain isn't required to focus in order to understand what's happening.
Yeah, my eyes went right to it when you opened it up. So.
Right, right. So that spot in the center, I would consider that a white space, even
Mhm.
though it's not white. So you do want to pair bold and bright with the white space. That doesn't necessarily mean that your website has to be boring. Not at all. Not by any stretch of the imagination. If you want to go to like, I think it's awards, but there's 3 W's in it. You can see a bunch of award-winning websites of all different types of industries.
Oh, neat.
There's some crazy things in there, but they're just beautiful because they're really, really, really careful about where they direct your brain.
I'll find that for everybody watching this after the fact, and before, you'll probably see it in the description already, but I'll find it and put it in the description right after we're done here.
Absolutely. And I can find the link, and I could also include it in the chat as well.
Cool.
Another thing that's trending is 3D elements or micro animations. Micro animations are really cool. And in fact, if we get a chance to show some of the websites later, I'll walk you through some cool ones. Micro animations are things, small little animations. If you've ever hovered over the little hamburger menu on the right-hand side and watch it change, like thicken or change to an X, that's a micro animation. It doesn't have to be crazy. It's not Flash. We're not going there. We're not doing anything drastic with our websites, but these are just small little movements that are really easy now. I mean, they're built into some of the templates that are out there for people to purchase, like the pre-made templates. So you don't have to be a coder in order to have micro animations in your site.
Nice.
So very, very cool. So this is an example of a blog page. You can see here that it's really easy to see what the content is and what you need to do with it. This is a very basic, I use the word familiar format for a blog, right? Mm-hmm. We don't want people to guess. We don't want people to not know what to do with the page that they're looking at. But you can also be artistic with it. In this example, they have a very specific color scheme with their images. They have it slightly a Mason feel, which is not a grid feel. So a grid is where every single box, every single little tile is exactly the same size. Mm-hmm. The Mason is where they're all slightly different size. So you kind of get that kind of a cool look there. And then the little tags in there show what kind of content it is, whether it's a video blog or a gallery, or if it's just a quote, whatever it may be, or if it's just words. So there are some really great ways to add small little embellishments into a familiar design that will give your site kind of a modern feel.
Nice.
And that's really what's trending right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And another one. This is just an example of shop. Really easy. There's nothing crazy about this, right? But I've seen some beautiful ones out there. And I would only say that if you're giving people a shop experience, this is specifically for e-commerce websites or shop pages on your website, you really want it to be so easy. Like, if you have to choose between easy and creative, go easy. Like, you do not want to complicate that process at all. You can have as much craziness on every other page, and if this page is boring, that is okay. Right?
Yeah.
That is
because the purpose is there, right? Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter what you think of. I mean, you're not reading a ton of stuff, so there's no boredom involved. You're just gonna click on something and go.
Right. Exactly. And if they could purchase this just clicking on it, it's that much easier. But yeah, boring is not necessarily a bad thing when it comes to shops. And you can see that shops overall on most websites, they're not evolving much in terms of design.
Right.
Because that's the last thing that you want to play with. It's the absolute last thing that you want to start messing with. So grid format, great. There are some 3D or micro animations that you can play around with this. So for example, if you hover over this and it looks like the book is opening up, it's kind of a cool thing to do.
Yeah.
So you can still play around with it, but just make sure that it's not affecting the experience or what will happen when people click on.
Here's one thing I noticed that I don't see on many indie sites. This is obviously traditional publishing here, and I know that because they're not pimping the ebook. And so that's what I notice is, like, on indie sites, they'll have the ebook option, the paperback option, the Audible option.
Yeah.
This you just click on it. You're going to go to the Amazon page, I assume, and it'll have all those options in there. And I think people take that for granted a little bit. They don't embrace that as much. That there are all the options are there, and I, as a consumer, already know how I'm going to consume my media. So I'm going to go to I'm going to click on the Amazon page to the thing I want, like the paperback
Right.
or the
Right.
Audible. It crowds up the space, right? When you have too
Mhm.
many options, and that also is a no, right? Is having too many
Right.
options for the
Having
user.
too many options. I would say if you've got, I would, and again, I'm speaking in a generalization, which is always not a good idea. But I would say if you can have a clean design with 2 links or 2 buttons, you know, you can go ahead. But if you've got more than that, you know, one thing that you can do is you can, and I can't show you because this is a presentation. You click on the book, it opens up a pop-up, which is overlaying the actual shop page, and then you've got all of your purchase
Or
options
a
there.
books
So
to
not
read page, right? Where it has
Yes,
all the links and everything, where you can
right,
go, where it has an actual, nested page that has all you can go Barnes and Noble, you can do Kobo, you can do whatever you need to do.
right,
You don't have to put them all in here for that. The user's not looking for that experience.
right. Exactly. Especially on the shop page. Again,
Mhm.
you want to keep it simple, you want to keep it clean. So,
Nice.
yeah. We are about 10 minutes left.
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple things that we can do. We can either go through some questions, do some Q&A, or I can kind of walk through some sites. I also have a kind of a WordPress theme that I can recommend for people.
Well, let's hit on that real quickly. Let's hit on the idea of you're part of what I was talking about earlier was in the intro was where do people start their process? What is the best builder? Because everybody will tell you different things, and you think it's WordPress.
Yeah, I'm a fan of WordPress for a couple of reasons. One, the it's a blog platform. And what that means is that it is a content centric platform. So the same website on WordPress will perform better than the exact same website, design, content, and everything on another platform. Just because the nature of the platform is content centric. And that's just where Google is. It's just where Google is. And I don't imagine that Google's going to change. They haven't changed in 10 years,
Yeah,
15
they're
years.
making people change to them.
Yeah.
So,
They used to have they care about content so much that their I think their content logo or slogan was "Content is King."
yeah,
I don't know if you've heard that.
yeah.
That came from Google. So
Yeah,
and
I
that,
mean they have they've held Amazon hostage, which not many people can do. So
right. So let me see if I can pull up just one example
sure.
of a WordPress theme that can be purchased and then played around with.
If anybody's watching that has a question, now would be the time to put it in there.
Absolutely.
So if you do have a question, send it right away because I'll get it in there right now.
I'm going to share my screen. Okay.
Nope, wrong one. There we go. Oh.
There we go. Okay. So this is called Artur. It is a WordPress theme. And let me just give you an idea of what it looks like. So if I go to a live preview, and this is what most WordPress paid themes will have.
Cool.
And it gets a little chaotic. So when you go into the demo, and you can see that there's, you know what I said about that micro animation kind of built in? You can kind of see that it exists. It's just fun. I didn't have to code. I didn't have to pay a coder probably what would have been $500 to do that. So, yeah, it's really, really nice.
Yeah, I like it.
So what's great about some of these themes, and Artur is not the only one. It's certainly not. It's just one. They have several different pages, several different demos, several different styles, where you can just basically choose the design that you like the most and then plug your own content into it.
Cool. We'll put that link in there for sure for everybody.
Absolutely. Additionally, what they do is they have all of the different content styles that you can build out.
Nice.
In their content. They actually create demo content. So you'll get basically what looks like a full website, but what they're really just trying to do is say, this is what our accordions look like. These are the different homepage designs that we have that you can use. These are the different types of shops that you can use. So, and you can, again, you can choose to plug and play whichever one you want. So you've got, this is
all through WordPress, right? You can
this is all through WordPress. And
awesome.
They use a builder called Elementor.
Which I've heard of. That's a really popular one, actually.
It's really popular and it's pretty versatile. So you can pretty much do anything with Elementor.
So Rosie does have a question for you. She wants to know your opinion on author sites with series of book covers along the top. Is that too cluttered?
That's a little bit broad of a question, Rosie. No, it's not too cluttered. It doesn't have to be too cluttered. Let's see, because you can do it well, right? And I've seen it done. I don't know that I can pull up.
Would you recommend it be more of a call to action where they can click on it and it goes to the Amazon page or something to that respect, or it goes to the books page or something to that respect? Or do you think it's just more of a design element that would be more comfortable for looking less cluttered?
Author sites with series of book covers along the top. I've seen it done really well. I've seen it done really, really well. And part of that, the benefit of doing it well is that it adds it adds to your brand awareness, your brand recognition. You know, if you have that as one of your marketing objectives, it adds to that, as well as giving you a lead gen plug as well. So there's double benefits. The risk that you have with that is again cluttering things up. So if you can do it in a way that looks clean, go for it. Absolutely, 100% go for it. I would recommend trying it and seeing how your audience responds, because I would say older audiences are probably not going to respond as well to a lot of clutter. The newer audiences, if it's done well, they will be able to navigate through that. On the other hand, if it's not done well, the younger audiences will be more judgmental because they do have higher expectations of what a website looks like, and the older audiences won't know better now.
Damn
they
book talkers.
They won't know. They've been through websites in the 90s. They've been through stuff. So.
That's awesome. Well, this has been amazing. This is such a fantastic presentation. So much good information. I'm literally going to go to my blog and redo everything tonight because of the conversation. And I'm sure other people are thinking along the lines of that I am when they see this and take a look at it. I will mention to anybody watching this after the fact, and this will be up on our site so you can watch it anytime you want. But anybody who's watching it after the fact, if you have a specific question while you're watching it or after you watch it, you put them in the comments of the video. I will make sure that Leah goes back and looks through it and, gives an answer to it. You're willing to do that, right, Leah?
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah. Additionally, I created this presentation just for tonight, so I can also send it to you. So if anybody wants, because I did include lists of things to go through and questions to ask. You are not required to remember them or take screenshots in that exact moment. You don't have to do that. We'll get you the full presentation so you can see it.
So yeah, and Leah says, "Yeah, great stuff. I think I have some cleanup on my website too, Joe."
And this is another thing: is if you don't take a look at your site every 2 to 3 years, and I'm talking about not just updating your content, about an honest to God look at your content and the architecture of your site, you are probably dealing with an outdated website.
Yes. So where can people get in touch with you, Leah, if they want to get in touch with you?
Wow. So I'm always available on Facebook, and we can share that information. Also, I will be happy to share my email address because sometimes questions just need an email.
Yeah. I'll put both of those in the description for everybody to check it out. And
absolutely. Absolutely.
You don't watch my shows very often, so you probably don't know the magic words. But if you'd like to say it, I can let you. It's always time to go indie now.
Go ahead.
It's always time to go indie now. And thank you so much for teaching us. You can say it next week.
I will do that.
Because Leah will be back next week, and we're going to talk SEO, everybody. So remember that it is always time to go indie now, and we'll be back next week. Thanks, everybody, for joining us.